We are live. Happy Thursday night, viewers. It is time for Women on Words. I am your host, Siera London, and along with writer Michelle Ingrid. Hey, Michelle.
Hello, hello.
We are going to be interviewing an audiobook narrator, and I'd like to welcome Kimberly Yvonne Steele to the show. Hi, Kimberly.
Hi, guys. Thanks for having me.
Yes,
Welcome.
we are so excited to have you on the show. Now, Kim and I have been working together for the last couple of months, so I'm very excited to have you here on the show. But I
Excited
must
to be here.
admit, you came out of nowhere on the scene. I'm like, where did this woman come
Am I
from
on
with
the
this
scene?
marvelous voice? Yes, you are on the scene, right? Right, you're on the scene. You have your voice is out there in on these streets, right? So tell us tell us about yourself, Kim. Like, who are you? Where'd you come from? How'd you get into audiobook narration?
Well, I live in Chicago, and I started off as a creative as a kid. I like to write and draw and do all of that stuff, but I went to a very technical high school, and they pretty much beat it out of me that I needed to get a real career. So I decided to go into IT. I got a bachelor's in IT with plans to be a programmer, but I never really broke into the industry. And I started doing like help desk work and stuff like that. And just advising people online sort of morphed into academic advising and employment advising. And then I started writing grants. And then, 20 years later, the last job I had was like the director of fundraising and external affairs. So I managed the team who wrote grants and did marketing and stuff like that.
Interesting.
And I was like, if I have to get up and go somewhere 9 hours a day, I might as well do that.
Yeah.
But quite honestly, I was getting pretty burnt out. I was just not happy. And I don't know, like right before the pandemic, I had went to my therapist and I'm just like, I'm pretty sure I'm depressed. And
Uh-huh.
as I was talking to her, she was like, I don't think you're depressed. I think you're burnt out. You're just tired of doing and going and whatever. And so I was working for a smaller company and I wanted to take a mental health break, but I couldn't because they didn't have that available.
Okay.
So literally 2 weeks later, this is like in February of 2019, I came down
Mhm.
with a horrible cold. It might have been COVID, I don't know. But I
Mm.
got really sick and had to work from home before the work from home thing started. I was
Okay.
already at home, really sick. And, this is February, then March, we all were working from home. And
Mhm.
then May,
Yeah.
I was laid off.
Okay.
And quite honestly, it was one of the happiest days when my boss called me on Zoom. She's like, I'm really sorry, but what you do in terms of fundraising and going out and
Mhm.
event planning, it just doesn't exist right now. So we're going to have to
Wow.
lay you off.
Yeah.
And
Okay. And then where did the
that's that.
narration piece come from? Because there's so much to choose from, and it's totally different from what you were doing. So tell
Yeah.
me, like, how did you get into narration?
Yeah.
Well, I started off writing. I was like, okay, I'm at home. This is probably the only time that I'll have the opportunity to pursue writing full time. So that's what I did. I don't know if you
Okay.
guys ever participated in NaNoWriMo, but I did
Michelle,
that.
Yes.
that's so
I
her.
did that
Yeah.
in November. I wrote a book
Nice.
and was just thrilled. And I'm like, this is what I'm going to do full time. I'm going to sell 1 million copies. It's going to be great.
Yep.
So I was on Clubhouse talking about my book and somebody stopped me and they were just like, the book sounds great, but your voice, like, would you ever read someone else's work? And I said,
Wow.
sure. And it first started off with like erotica. I was doing like little erotica stuff on Clubhouse.
Uh-huh.
And then people were giving me short stories to read. And it
Wow.
just kind of morphed into there. I created an account on Fiverr and started doing voiceover work. Then it became audiobook narration and it took off. And to date, my little book is out there on Amazon. I probably sold about 20 copies, but audiobook narration is paying all the bills right now. So
Wow.
here I am.
Wow.
So how
Yeah.
many books have you narrated at this point? Have you do
Got
you
it on
have
my
a
little
count?
whiteboard here. I'm on number 11. And I got
Okay.
2 more books today.
Oh, nice. So how many hours would you say that you have worked in terms of narration up to
Oh
this
my
point?
God. I can't even say, like, the most I've done in a day is like a 15-hour day where I'm just reading and editing. And in the beginning, the editing would take me like 1 hour to read would take me 5 to 6 hours to edit because I had to learn. And now I can get through it pretty quick in terms of not 6 hours, but maybe 3 hours to edit an hour that I read.
Yeah.
So a 3-hour book takes me a few days. I can do like maybe 2-3 hour books a week.
Yeah.
If I'm not really like overdoing it.
Yeah. So your story it's really inspirational because your journey into audiobook narration, into this new career, really started with COVID and your job situation, turning around, and you're out there on Clubhouse connecting with people, and someone hears your amazing voice, and you created a career out of just sharing and connecting with other people. And I think so many women need to hear that right now, how you said, just frustrated in the current marketplace, and then the situation changes, and then bam, I mean, here you go. So Kim, let me ask you this. Now, you have a fabulous voice. I hired you because you have a fabulous voice. And you narrated my book, Convincing Lena. But I have to ask you, was there any formal training? Like once you decided, hey, I think I really can do this, and more people are reaching out to me. What was your next step in, really grounding yourself in this new career?
Yeah, I am a big advocate. If you enjoy doing something, or if you think you have a talent, to go get formal training. Even if you think you are amazing, I just really love to back up what you know how to do naturally with formal training. So it wasn't all that formal, but I did do a couple of workshops when it was just voiceover before the audiobook thing took off. I did these boot camp, sort of voiceover boot camp workshop things. And then I was working on my demo reel to be a voiceover artist. And I was just really trying to tweak that. And I was going to go do voiceover classes in person once everything opened up. And then the audiobook stuff just started happening. And I kept saying, I need to do a training or something. And before I know it, I was on my 5th or 6th book. And I'm just well, maybe I'll get some type of training one day, but so far so good. I mean, I do learn something with each book. I feel like each book I do is better than the last one. And you can attest to that, because I started your book very early on and then did 4 or 5 books and then finished your book. So the ending of your book was almost error-free. But the beginning, you were like, can you revise this? This is a little off. But by the end of it, I felt like I was a pro.
Yeah, that is amazing. And I felt and so this is one thing I want you to share, because audiobooks, I'm sorry, Michelle, let me just ask this one question. I know I'm talking all over you, but audiobooks as a vehicle to reach folks who are interested in stories and storytelling, that industry is just growing. It's growing fast, like ebooks did. And a lot of authors, not just traditionally published, but also independently published authors, are looking into turning their digital content into audiobooks as well. So what would you suggest, for an author looking for a narrator? What are some of the things which you would share with us that we should look for or to ask?
I would start a step before that. As I was, when I narrate books now, as a writer, I'm hearing things that I would do differently if I was writing for my book to be narrated. I never thought of it that way. When you're writing your book, you think about publishing and getting it out there. You don't really think about what's this going to sound like when it's being narrated. So now I kind of think that way. When I go into my next book, I'm going to write it as, for it to be narrated, because some things, when you read a book, is coming through your filter. You're kind of interpreting it. You kind of know the context. You are bringing a lot to yourself, bringing a lot to the book as you read it. But when you're listening, you don't have the context. You can't see the next page. You're just listening. So sometimes the dialogue that you may read doesn't transfer well to narration, like contractions. Like if you say, I told you I am not going to go to that party. Nobody talks like that. People say, I'm not going, or they just say it a different way, especially in an argument. Nobody's like, I did not say that I was going to go to the store. You got to put contractions in there. I didn't say that. And people don't always speak in complete sentences. They stop, they start, they don't say what they mean. It's just very nuanced. And a lot of dialogue is just very straightforward, all complete sentences, all perfectly, the grammar's perfect. Nobody talks like that. Right. So when you write the dialogue, just think about how it sounds as a narration. Put some apostrophes in there, like do not, don't, can't, stuff like that. And then the other thing I notice is people spell the character. They don't trust the reader. And I do this too. You think you don't want the reader to get confused or get lost, so you explain every little thing. So when you introduce a new character, you might be like, John was a smart, honest guy. John never lied. John had a funny quirk where he did this or did that. Like when you explain all of his traits, whatever he does for the rest of the story, I'm really kind of bored. I already know all his whole personality, his quirks, what he will do, what he won't do. Like let it unravel in the book. Let me figure out who John is. Don't tell me everything all at once, because when something happens in the story, I already kind of know, well, John doesn't lie, so it's not John, like just let me figure it out as the reader. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I understand. Okay, that is great advice. Michelle?
So I'm curious, since you came about this unexpectedly, how did you go about creating your home studio? What did that look like? How much did that cost you as a startup in terms of putting it together? And what kind of equipment did you end up needing? Because I'm curious, if someone is out there thinking, okay, I might be interested in this, what are the different pieces that had to be brought together for this?
It's interesting too, because prior to this, as a mom and a wife, back before my divorce, I used to put everybody else first. So if I was doing something for me, I would just kind of do the quick, cheap, easy thing, like, oh, I don't need much or whatever. So now starting this career, the first thing I needed was a mic. And I was looking at the mics, and the old me would have probably got the less expensive one. Like, I don't know what I'm doing. Why would I spend a lot of money on a mic? Right. But I just decided not to go that route with any of the things that I'm doing. So I didn't buy the most expensive mic. I bought like a middle of the road or whatever mic, a Blue Yeti, which is like, you can do everything you need to do for the rest of your life. I will probably upgrade at some point to the Newman, like the good mic. Oh, look. Right. So I got the mic, and I got headphones. Then I needed to get soundproofing equipment. So I have like some sponge things on the wall, and I have big sponge things that cover up the windows. And then I've got sound deadening curtains. That was about the biggest investment, the mic and the soundproofing equipment. And the software. The software I use is Audacity, and it's free. And it's amazing. I can't believe that is free. In fact, I didn't trust it. I was like, I need to go pay for Adobe Audition. And I did it. And I couldn't figure it out. And I'm like, I got 7 books to do. I don't know how to use Adobe Audition right now. I'm going to stick with Audacity.
Oh my goodness. So you were learning, you were
on the job.
Wow.
Yeah. Wow. In fact, the first person that asked me to narrate, I said to her, yes, I'll do it. And I immediately got on the phone to one of my friends who's a content creator. And I said, if I read this book, can you do whatever needs to be done? And he was just like, I guess so. And then I thought, well, let me see if I can do it. Let me try to figure it out. And I'm glad I did, because I would have been outsourcing all that work to somebody else and paying somebody else. Girl, that would have broke my heart.
No, I love it, because you are, telling our audience that it's doable.
Absolutely.
Like, you being able to successfully do this, start a second career, figure it out, get the free software, get your house ready. You didn't go out and rent a space. You're using the space that you live in, get a mic, a quality mic, but again, not one that's not, going to have you out there, working the late shift at Walmart, trying to pay for it.
Right.
So that's wonderful. I mean, that's what people need to hear, that it is possible, you know.
Yeah, and I would just add to that. I really was 100% invested in being a full-time writer and just wondering, well, how much can I really make? How many books do I need to write before they just all in that? And I'm glad that I was open to just trying something else while focusing on the writing. I was like, well, let me try that and let me try this and let me try that. And doing that gave me other avenues, other, you know, income streams. I still want to write. I still got my book that I want to get out. But this has been just a blessing in disguise. So even if you are trying something new and stepping out on faith, be open to random shit popping up that might work out.
Oh my goodness.
What genres have you worked in so far?
And that's funny too, because I
won't ask your favorites. I'm just curious about your genres.
And when I kind of did an analysis of my voice, like, well, who's going to hire me? And I'm like, it's going to be erotica. It's just going to be erotica. And that's fine. And so that's the way I marketed myself. But the first person was like, I see you do erotica, but have a, you know, a self-help book. Can you do that too? And I'm like, yeah. And then the next person was fantasy with elves and dragons. And I'm like, I don't know why she hired me, but absolutely. And then it was contemporary fiction and romance, and I've only done one erotica book so far. It's been everything else under the sun. I just got a thriller today. So that'll be my first serial killer slasher book. So I think I've done almost every genre.
Okay.
I do enjoy like contemporary fiction, but I love to take a break and just curse and talk about sex. Like the Little Lunch Chronicles. I love those little getting nasty. I don't want to do that all day, every day, because so much, you know. But I love the little interlude that's just nasty and filthy, and I can be like, okay, back to urban fiction or whatever.
So I have a question for you. I know a lot of the narrators. I know a lot of them that work on books that are on Audible, that they have pen names for different genres. How did you decide whether or not to do that?
No pen names for me, because I don't have anything to hide. Okay. I don't think there's a group out there that I'm afraid to offend. If I feel like it's just too much, I just won't do it. Like I'm on Fiverr and I get lots of guys who will say, will you just read this story? I'll pay you whatever. I just want to hear you read the story. And they'll send me a little excerpt and I'm like, I'm not about to, it's just a little bit too much.
I learned something new.
People did that.
I didn't either.
It's not even the offer that I got wasn't even a story. It was more of sounds and things that he wanted to hear. And I was just like, I don't have time to be choking and gagging. I mean, that money did look good, but I just did not have the time to do it. Look at Michelle. And I almost said yes to him when he was like, it's just this little story. I'm like, okay. And then he comes back with, can you make gagging sounds? And I'm like, you know what? I'm not going to be able to do this book right now.
Okay. Yeah.
That might have been worth the pen name, girl.
Yeah. It wasn't even that I would be ashamed. I just wasn't in that mind space. Because I think I was working on like a religious book and a self-help. And I'm just like, I really don't want to do this today, right now. Yeah. It kind of
wasn't for publication.
Huh?
It wasn't for publication.
No, it's his own personal thing.
Okay. Yeah, I just learned something new, honestly.
That's all new.
That might be a book. That might be a book. A character who does that.
Yeah.
That's really interesting. It never occurred to me that someone would pay a narrator to make maybe a erotic sound, like just snippet or so around something that you know excited them, for lack of a better word.
Wow. I told a male friend of mine, and he was like, do he want to hear me choke? Because you turning down money? I'm just like, I'm not really turning down money. I didn't know how far he was going to go with it, you know?
Right.
And sometimes, you know, if you feel like a buyer is not, I didn't know if he was authentic or if he was just really trying to, because a lot of people try to get free samples on Fiverr. They're like, can I just hear you say this part? And I used to do it, and then I'd never hear from them again. And I'm like, okay, I'm learning. There's just some freaks out there that just want to hear a couple of certain sentences.
Your sexy voice.
Wow. I am genuinely amazed.
I
Yeah,
am too, that
my
somebody would
brother is
pay
a
for
voice
that.
artist, and he has never told me about this part of
He's not
the
going to tell his
deal.
sister that. You're not going to tell your sister if you're doing that, probably.
Now
I
I have
told my
so
kids
many
about it. I said, guess what they offered
questions.
me today?
Yeah. But you know what? But I think that's important to know. What I love about this show, when normally it's author L, Loren, and I, and then Michelle comes on for a book club, but we learn so much. Like we
Yeah.
learn from the stories we read, we learn from the guests that we have on the air. And honestly, you've enlightened me, because I didn't even know that was a possibility. But I know you didn't either. So tell us. So behind the scenes, is there a process you go through to prep your voice before you start your audiobook reading day? Like, what does that look like?
I can't do any coffee or anything like that. I can't even do tea, but I have like, this goes on my, which one is it? I have to
Okay.
put this on my tongue. Then I do
Okay.
spray. Then I have a mouth, like a gargle. I could
Okay.
probably do stuff without all of that, but the
Yeah.
days when I'm dry, that really helps, the biotin stuff. I drink a
Okay.
ton of water. I can't really drink. I can't really do anything because I can hear it the next day. Like a dry
Okay.
mouth that's making a lot of popping sounds, and that adds to the editing time. So you really want to be 100%.
Okay.
I kind of talk to myself as I'm getting out of bed and like warming up my voice, and just by the time I get into the seat, I'm warmed up.
Okay. So it's almost like a singer, like you really do have to protect your voice,
I know. Yeah.
keep your mouth healthy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. Y'all listening? Y'all taking notes? For
So
all of you all out there with great voices.
I will tell you that Siera's been trying to convince me to do this
I
for
have
a while.
years.
To do,
To do voice work.
yeah,
And
you have an amazing
I won't
voice. I
lie,
don't want
it
you taking my
scares
job,
me.
but
No, girl, you're good. Because I won't lie, it scares me. My brother's a voice artist, but he sings, and he
okay.
and my mom used to sing. So I was the one who started out singing and then did damage to my voice. So it scares me. I'm wondering, there's a certain level of bravery here. How did you, because I mean, writers suffer with imposter syndrome. I don't hear any imposter syndrome. So I want to know, who was the person that jazzed you up so that you always felt this confident about doing something, number one? And number two, how do you keep up that confidence for all of this work? Because, you're a performer. You may be recording by yourself, but you're performing for thousands or millions, so how do you do that?
Right.
And who was the person that helped you get to that point where you felt so confident? Because I can
I
hear
don't
it.
even know if it was confidence. It was like it was two women on Clubhouse, and one of them, I'm working on her book right now. Her name's Loren, and her book is Consider Your Ways. So that'll be coming out soon in audiobook. But it was her and another lady who was just like, your voice sounds great. And I'm the type of person, I'll try it. And if I send the file to you and you say, you know what, that's not right, or I don't like it, or whatever you say, I'll take it. And the next time I'll try to do better. Like I did have one guy, I did a voiceover for him. And it was to go with the video, and I hadn't seen the video. So I did the voiceover, I sent it to him, and he texted me and he said, here's your voice with the video. You let me know what you think. And if you want to do it again, let me know, or something like that. And I was just like,
Okay.
so I watched the video, and he was right. Like my voice with the video didn't match. My voice wasn't excited enough. And so I redid it. And it was like the best thing ever to sort of, he didn't even criticize me. He just kind of left it open. Like, if you good with it, I'm good.
Okay.
But the fact that he allowed me to redo it, and for me to just kind of do an assessment to like, how can I really master this? And every time I do a job and send it to the person, I'm always ready to hear any feedback, any criticism, because not everybody's going to like my voice. I know there's going to come a day when somebody's not happy with something, and that's okay. So it's not even confidence. It's just like, once you get that first payment, you're like, okay, somebody going to pay me for this? I'm just going to keep trying. If they don't like it, I'm going to do better. Whatever happens, happens. But if one person's willing to pay, so are 10, so are 100. And that's just kind of, day to day, the way I see it. I'm going to do my best, and I send it to the people, and I wait to hear back, and they've been happy so far. So I'm just like, okay.
Yeah,
Guess,
I know. I've
if I got a
enjoyed working
career.
with you. I have loved working
Yeah.
with you.
I like your voice with Lena too.
Yes, yes.
Thank
She was one
you.
of the first people. Michelle was one of the first people. I was like, listen to her voice and how she brings these characters to life. But what I love about working with you, so you were talking about getting feedback, is as I'm listening to the tracks, you know, I'm taking notes and I actually typed them up, you know, at the second point. And I sent that to you. And I remember you saying, thank you so much. Your notes were so good to help me, you know, like do
Yeah.
these characters justice. And I so appreciated that because again, you want to be happy with the work, but you also
Yeah.
want the narrator also to feel like, you know, this is a partnership, like we're working
Exactly.
together to produce the best product for the audience. So I just appreciate that with you, you as well.
And your notes were
So
so thorough. It's so helpful when you're like at 11, 12, you know, he sounds too mean. Soften him up a little bit. And I was like, okay. It was humbling, like that list. Cause I'm like, every point, it was on point. I'm like, she's right. He would be softer here, you know? So I really learned a lot from that. And I was able to take that into my next work with you, like your other books. I learned a lot.
So do you make a request to authors for notes? Because I'll tell you, I'm a huge audiobook listener. I think I was one of the early people. Like I had the cassettes. I was listening to audiobooks.
Oh, wow. I didn't know they had them.
I'm so old school that I was the person that would go to the library and get tapes or go and buy these tapes when they were on clearance. I'm 100. With that being said, I always find it interesting when they pick up a narrator for a series and then, you know, sometimes it feels as though they are so in sync, this author and this narrator in sync. And then other times you're like, wait, did they forget like that? Like, I wonder how much guidance do you get from most authors about the voices or, I mean, before they even listen to it, about accents, like how much of that do you get ahead of time? And is it on you to keep track of that in case that person comes back for a series that might just be released once every year? I know this is that you're new to this, but I'm just curious.
No, all this has happened. So I go into depth because I wouldn't feel comfortable voicing 10 of your characters if I haven't talked to you about those characters. People do it. I see people all the time accept jobs, narrate the book and keep it moving. And they haven't like, I want to look you in the face and say, what does Lena sound like? What is, you know, what is her personality? What is she like when she's angry? Or if there's an accent, I want to talk to you about that. Like, I want to know everything that you have. And you are so good at giving that information. I've talked to authors and they're like, just do what you do. And okay. So I just make up my own little voices and hope that they're happy with them. And they are. But I do like when the author has input, because if you give me a little tidbit, I will take that and run away with it. Like I did a voice for a dragon. He had a British accent and the girl was like, thank you. Like it was something I did and she was happy with it. But yeah, I have a notebook of all the characters, what their voices sound like. I compared it to some people I know. So I'll be like, well, Lena sounds like this person, this actress. So I can just kind of remember. And then with the men, you know, I kind of know who's the deepest and who's the less deep voice. I kind of go on deepness with the men.
Yeah, I love
it.
If
that answers the question.
No, that is, because I was always so curious about how much information a narrator is given.
Yeah, I ask everything. And some authors will just, you know, sign it over and trust you. But I will send my number and I'll try to do a call or, you know, I'll try to get as much as I can. I don't want to bug people, but my books are my babies. So I wouldn't just hand my baby over and be like, do what you do. So I feel like other authors would be that way. Like they want you to take care of their babies.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I would say, like, when you go to upload your script and ask for an audition, there's a section in there where you can put script notes. Mm-hmm. And I tend to always put like, this is how I see these characters. Like, this is how they look. This is their personality. This is how they would behave in this certain situation. And
no one does that. No one else does that.
Okay.
That's amazing.
Yeah. And this is the hero. This is what their struggle is, and this
Mhm.
is how they feel about this woman. Because the one thing that I think brings narration to life is that feel, like you can feel the emotion, you can hear it, when the narration is quality, and it helps you
Mhm.
to really connect with the characters. And that's what I love about working with Kimberly, because she has fun with it. Like, she's like, oh my gosh, I get to do voices, I get to do this. She's like, I can envision this. I was
I
like,
am
me
having a
too,
ball.
let's do it.
So, so I have another question. I was listening to a
Yeah.
podcast. I think it was another podcast about books, and one of the people they interviewed about reading habits was a narrator, a voice narrator. So my
Mm.
question for you is, has being a voice narrator changed how you read and what you enjoy reading? And were you an audiobook listener before, and has it changed how you react to audiobooks? Are
I am
you
not a fan of
self-editing?
audiobooks. I am not
Oh,
a fan of audiobooks. I've
okay.
only tried to get into them. Like if I had a long commute to work and there was a book I wanted to read, I'm like, well, let me listen to it on audiobook. But it's just not my thing. Like I love the feel of a book. I love the words. I just love books. So it's kind of ironic that this is my line of work. I do listen more just to see how different narrators handle different types of stories, but I'm listening purely for work. In terms of reading, narrating hasn't really changed how I read, but being a writer definitely changes my appreciation for writing. Like a good
Mhm.
opening, I'm just like, "Ugh, love it. Like just the first few lines of a book, because I'm always looking for these openings that just kind of take your breath away. So I appreciate very nuanced things now as a writer that look so easy in the books that you read, and it's not easy.
Right. That is so
Yeah.
true. So I know this is crazy, but we actually went over time, y'all. We just
Oh
talking. I
Oh,
no.
know we we
I didn't
talked
know it was
past.
going to be all about me either. I thought I was going to be listening to you guys.
no,
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 it's
all
all
about you.
about
We're so
you.
Oh my
excited. I mean,
goodness.
I
Yeah.
no, you gave some really good information for people who might be considering this,
Mhm.
and
Michelle, I
it's
fully expect to see you narrating. I mean,
Thank you.
you've got the perfect voice. It's very cool and
bless
modulated.
you.
It's in my genre, so I'm like, uh-oh.
Well, I have books to finish, so I will not be out there anytime soon.
Okay, well then I expect to be narrating your books then.
There you go. There you go. Because
Yeah, because
she's
I
got
don't
some
think I could
sexy
do that.
heroes.
That would be kind of scary to narrate your own book.
I plan to
Oh,
narrate mine.
I admire you for it. I'd be afraid too. I'm a little bit of a scaredy cat.
That's
But
okay. That's what
I'm
I'm here
so
for.
looking forward to the next set of the books. I've read Siera's books, and it's so different to hear Lena's voice.
it is.
So I'm
Oh,
actually very much looking forward to hear what you do with the rest of the series.
Yeah.
yeah, I'm excited.
Yeah, we are very excited. And lunchtime, she's going to be doing my Lunchtime Chronicles books too,
Oh,
for
oh,
all the ladies who love lunchtime.
oh.
Yes.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
now that I know you and I feel comfortable with you, I'm like taking chances in the voices. What did I do today? Part of Thick Cut with
Yeah,
Griffin,
with
right?
Griffin and
Yeah,
and Fiona. Yeah. So it's
I'm having
great.
fun with that.
Well,
Nice.
we had some lovely ladies on the line with us tonight. Midnight Ace, Book Bars on the line with us tonight. Miss Tony Bonita, Naomi Thomas. We thank you all so much for joining us on the show tonight. Kimberly, tell everybody where they can find you so they can connect with you. That's
Mhm.
important.
I am on ACX as a narrator. I'm on Fiverr as a narrator, and that's Fiverr. And social media, Instagram, Creative KYS, Facebook, Kimberly Yvonne Steele. That's where I am.
Awesome. Now I want you to come back on the show because
All
we
right.
are all about promoting, especially women of color, entrepreneurs, solopreneurs. So we are just thrilled to uplift you and
Thank you.
use this as a platform to showcase your business. So thank you so much for joining us on Women on Words. So until next time, y'all be amazing, be wild. Thank you for all the ladies on the line that joined us tonight. I see LaDonna's listening too. So we will see you all next Sunday for book club, and we're reading Jasmine Guillory's The Wedding Date. And I'm loving this book. I'm telling you all. So Michelle, Kimberly, y'all stay on the line. Everybody else, we'll see you next Sunday at 3 p.m. for book club, The Wedding Date by Jasmine Guillory. Bye now. Y'all waving bye.
Oh.
Oh my gosh.